So I guess the thing that's on my mind the most is the yoga practice.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I got 4 days on my belt.
What? Oh my gosh. Okay.
And I can already tell that it's allowing me so much more mental space, especially today. Um, it's interesting because I had started like one day before I had a night of drinking,
Yeah.
and then 3 days after that, consistent yoga, I guess,
Yeah.
and mindfulness. It already, like, I can feel my life kind of evening out again.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
I feel like I've been consistent. I wish that I actually had a practice today before this. I feel like I should get into the habit of even practicing before we meet because it's like a way to completely clear my head beforehand instead of like showing up with my entire day
yeah,
still in the forefront of my mind. It like
that's
kind
totally
of
fair.
gets rid of everything, which is really important. So that's so cool. 4 days of consistency. That's awesome.
Yeah, 4 days, not a big number, but
No, but it
yeah,
makes a difference so quickly.
and I actually filmed myself doing it today just to see
Okay.
where I'm at, as because it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some work to do, but I think that was expected, so that's all right.
What are you
Um,
looking like? What are you critiquing yourself on?
just
The form?
I guess, yeah, the form, maybe the
Okay.
depth of the pose. There are certain poses that I absolutely cannot do, so it's just
Yeah.
it's just trying to figure out how. I don't know. I typically film myself doing a lot of things that I learn right off the bat, just so I can kind of watch what I would do differently.
I think
Um,
that's a good idea. Just to kind of see, because mentally you can feel something intensely and then you're wondering where you're actually,
yeah,
which it has pros and cons because if you're feeling the pose, then you don't need to push yourself any further. And in fact,
yeah.
that's where like injury can happen. So I
So
don't
it's
know.
interesting
Yeah.
you mentioned that, because when I set up my camera, I had the front facing camera on me,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't typically I would want to see myself in the process, but I just got so distracted, and I felt like it was going to take away from how deep I could get spiritually, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Because
So I ended up flipping it around and putting it somewhere else.
yes, exactly. Because I've spoken with my like my yoga instructor before about how like in dance classes they'll have mirrors on the walls and in yoga classes they don't. And it's for that reason where yes, sometimes looking at yourself can be beneficial if you're in a teaching space, but if you're just in a practice, like it can immediately take you out of it. And then all of a sudden you're looking at other people if you're in a class with other people, or you're just hyper fixated on yourself. And now
Yeah.
you're just thinking about like the smallest little things, or you're hyper analyzing yourself instead of being mindful and being present, which is what the entire practice is for.
Yeah, totally.
That's cool though.
Yeah. It's interesting. There are other things surrounding that, but I don't know if I really want to dive too deep into it, just because
Yeah.
it's kind of fresh, I guess, and trying to just navigate it. But I'm hoping that by doing this will also allow for more, I guess, desire to be healthier. I don't know. Did you ever experience that when you were getting
Totally.
into yoga?
Yeah, totally. I think it naturally feeds into other things because, well, I don't know if you, it depends on how, like who you surround yourself with, but if you naturally have people around you that enjoy doing yoga, they're probably going to enjoy doing other things that focus around wellness. And then even just in yourself, you know what feels good. Maybe you order a pizza and you eat the pizza and then you like do a yoga practice and you feel like crap. Or maybe you do it on an empty stomach or after like a light meal and you feel so much better. I think it just naturally spirals into other things. And then I think you find yourself like craving some of those things that make you feel better. I mean, if you read some of like the philosophy and the text behind the practice, you'll realize that it's all, I mean, the physical, like the actual physical postures of yoga is 1/8 of 1/4 of what yoga is actually really about. It's an entire body, an entire like holistic practice. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can kind of take that with what you will, but it's pretty much, it dominoes into 100 other things, and you can kind of go as far as you want to with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked to even dive deeper into that whole thing. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if we're going to do it today.
Yeah.
But I think just listening to you talk about that is
Mm-hmm.
totally, I'm just so interested to hear about, I don't know. It always has felt to me like there's more to the practice than just stretching,
Totally.
and that's, I think, how a lot of people view it. And they're like, how much time a week do you spend stretching?
Sure.
It's like,
But also stretching feels amazing.
yeah.
I mean,
I
if
just
it
know
was
so
just
many
that,
people that exercise and they don't stretch.
Yes.
It's like, it's
For
half
years.
of it. It has
For-
to be a big part of your exercise, right? But I'm not in that place yet. I don't even
Yeah.
know if I'm even able to speak on it right now, but
I mean, 4 days, you've enjoyed it for 4 days, and just take it day by day. And I don't know, that's all you can say right now. But I mean, that's awesome. I love
yeah,
that you're diving into a practice.
bless. So I guess this episode's a little different because we have a little bit more of a plan. I would even like to touch on our last episode just a little bit to
I
say,
know.
holy smokes, I didn't realize how I was speaking to the camera for years, actually. Sometimes I would record myself doing things and speaking to the camera and trying to get used to that. And I wouldn't even watch it back with in the lens of, trying to be better at speaking to the camera. And it's kind of a funny thing to say, like, I want to get better at speaking to the camera, but
It's a real skill.
yeah, and I think it translates in so many different parts of your life. So it's super important to me. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I
hit me.
completely agree. I completely agree. Especially, like, I think growing up, even, or not growing up, but just as you would record yourself for random little things, or like just recording audio, I know a lot of people in my life would feel so much anxiety about listening to themselves back, or watching a video of themselves and like feeling cringy about it. So kind of forcing myself to listen to my audio, watch the video. I think I watched it like 3 times just to kind of, I don't know. It's
Which
our
is
like
3 hours if you didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. But like that's our job. I have to filter through
Yeah.
the content. So
Absolutely.
immediately I kind of had to just get rid of that fear, and then you become a little bit hypercritical of where your habits lie, and so naturally you start thinking about, okay, how can I improve in this? I think it's a real skill. I don't know, and it just translates into speaking with people in general. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people struggle with thinking on the spot and relaying their thoughts in a concise way, and
articulate.
and articulating themselves clearly to people without like spending time thinking about it beforehand or writing it out. So it's a huge skill in my opinion.
And we also live in an age where everybody wants to hear, or they have something to say about everything.
Yeah.
So they think that they need to respond very quickly. I could notice myself doing that in that video. Just, we're on a podcast and our goal is to have a conversation. So I think naturally we're like, okay, I want to say words now.
I know. And there's a million things jumping into my head, and I had to keep reminding myself, just like, okay, just take a breath, take a pause. Right. You will come across so much clearer if you just take one moment, like 5 seconds, just to think about it before you speak, instead of just word vomiting, and then it ends up like you don't even know what you've said by the end of it.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just like getting some messages about my sister in the hospital. Her water has broken.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
at the hospital, so every message that comes through is kind of like,
oh
happened?
My gosh, this live, like these live updates coming through. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. It's just showing up on the podcast at the same time.
I'm hyped.
Very natural.
Yeah.
We should. So something that you mentioned, I think when did we talk last? Was it on Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, Saturday.
And you had mentioned bringing something that we had consumed for the week. I guess the week, yeah. I think I'm always consuming things, so it's going to be really hard for me to pick something, but
I'm just picking something that I liked. Like, I consume a million things a day,
Yeah.
unfortunately. but
Yeah.
but
Right.
I'm just picking something that I've been going back to.
But it's a good segue because that's kind of what we want to focus
Yes,
on this episode is just this idea of creation versus consumption. And um,
exactly.
yeah, there's so many things surrounding that. But something we had, I think both of us had consumed, and maybe we're kind of repeating this conversation, but
Hmm.
uh, we had both listened to that Andre 3000 album, and
Yeah, we
I
did.
totally want to revisit it just because.
I
Um,
did on Monday, just to refresh myself on my thoughts.
yeah,
And yeah, we can dive into it a little bit, but um I feel like I think the main thing that I took from it was that people as consumers enjoy stability and they
mm.
don't like when people go outside of their comfort zone.
Ooh,
And we kind of talked about that with like you dabbling into different things, and people don't. I think that that was my takeaway, was that people don't like when artists go outside of what they've consistently done in the past.
right. It's interesting because literally 30 minutes before we got on this call, I had
Hmm.
been watching this. I guess there's a musician that became famous through TikTok, and
Okay.
he recorded himself in his van. I don't remember his name or his artist's name, but he has all types of different outlets that he posts his music on. He does a podcast, and I think that's become very normal for uh, any artist of any kind. Is
Totally.
they start to feel like they have to post their work on social media, and he mentions that typically artists are introverts, so we don't really want to be putting ourselves out there in a social way, or that in that level, I guess you could say. um, but it's also kind of natural for us to grow comfortable with it if we want to expand our opportunities as artists
Yeah.
and those type of things. So I don't know, I just found that really interesting. It's like instead of thinking of it as, because social media is such a scary thing, we all kind of don't want to dabble too far into it and reveal too much of ourselves to the world.
Yes, totally.
Um, it's also like there is a fear there, and on the other, and I think these are the words he says. It's like on the other side of fear is success or improvement or
I think
something
it's
like that.
success. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it's an official quote,
Maybe. Maybe.
and I don't actually know it, but it's true. And while I don't know, I've dealt with that before, where I'm trying to balance this fear. Is it a fear or is it I'm too lazy? That's where I go. I don't
So
know.
I think sometimes I lean towards that. I think sometimes I lean towards, I'll call it fear, but it's really just laziness. And
Yeah.
fear, it's not even fear. It's like you're calling it fear of branching out, but really it's the amount of work that it's going to take to dive into this new thing. What if it doesn't work out? Then I've wasted my time.
Yeah. So
There's kind
maybe
of,
it's fear of working hard.
yeah, yeah, sometimes it is. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
Maybe
think
it's because our time is so valuable and
yes.
we don't want to put our time into something that's not going to pay off. Uh, that
But
could be
it's
it.
like, is it ever truly a waste of time to just like try something new and branch into it and spend a little bit of time kind of curating your skills and seeing, and okay, it doesn't work out.
Hmm.
What have you lost? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
kind of debatable about what is wasted time if you're spending it in creative work.
Hmm.
Is it ever really completely a loss?
And just to go back to Andre 3000 a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
he kind of has this, he explains, I don't know if it's a fear. It just seems like he did a GQ podcast and he had a lot to say
He
on it that
did.
I thought was really interesting. I thought that podcast was more interesting than the album itself.
Yep, I
Uh,
agree. Yeah.
and I don't know, we kind of talked about how maybe there's a time and place for that type of music,
Mm-hmm.
but where I've kept landing with that album is some music that you make doesn't always belong in the world, but it's
Yeah,
for you,
I
you know?
agree. I
And that's
agree.
how I've written and recorded hundreds of things that sit on my computer, and I just know that if I were to put that anywhere, it's not going to do anything for anyone but me,
Who's going
right?
to appreciate it? And then, yeah, like, the world is like people are tough. People are extremely judgmental. And even I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about how in this like generation, you'll see people will release things, and it's either it's trash or this is awesome.
Yes, yeah.
It's those words exactly, like this is trash or.
Why do I feel like I heard whatever you're talking about?
I know.
Was it maybe a Zane Lowe interview?
Maybe. Oh, I think it was. I'm forgetting who it was, but I think it was a Zane Lowe interview.
It wasn't Dominic Fike, was it?
No, it wasn't. But
that's the one I saw most recently. So
yeah, no, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago. But they were talking. Maybe they brought that up too. But like, yeah, this is trash or it's fire, and it's amazing. And like, there's nothing in between. So people are judgmental that way. And like, why would you want to put something out that's so intimate and so out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, but overall, creation in general seems like the better thing to do than consume. And sometimes if you really like something, Rick Rubin says this all the time, if you like something, that's enough for it to be out in the world.
Totally.
So if Andre 3000 loves it enough and he thinks it deserves to be out there, then that's all that matters, really.
I've used it as meditation music. I've used it as I used a couple of the songs as like yoga flow. I don't think they'll consistently
it's the song titles that freak me out.
I know. They're weird. They're weird for sure.
But like, it also doesn't seem like it totally seems like that is him anyway. You know, you don't ever think like anybody else could have done this, but it makes sense for him.
Yeah,
I guess.
I got a lot of like insecurity from that interview, and like he felt, I don't know, I got a different side of him that I was not expecting at all.
Did you hear the part about, I think his friend said that Hey Ya would never be a hit?
Yeah, that'll ruin your career.
Right. That'll ruin your, imagine hearing that.
And then imagine listening to it.
And imagine blowing up from it. That's
exactly.
That's even crazier. It's interesting because as an artist, you need something to hit like that in order to make a living off of your work. I don't know. I feel like I have a million thoughts surrounding that because I've always wanted to be able to support myself through art. And I've always thought that maybe there's a different type of approach I have to take. So anybody that's seen anything that I've done, they've probably seen that I've posted things in a million different ways, like tried different accounts, tried different routines of posting, or, and it exhausts you and it takes you away from the actual art, I find. But
it does, because you're trying to impress people. And then as soon as you're trying to do that, then you've taken away from like the love that you have for what you created, because now you're trying to like frame it in a way and pitch it to someone and hope you hope that they like it. But really,
it's kind of like when you film yourself doing yoga.
Yeah,
you almost have to hide the camera while you're working because I don't know. It's like, I want to get as far away from performative as I can.
Totally.
I just want it to be, I want people to have a little frame into my life while I'm really in the zone. Right. But it's hard to get there. It's really hard to get there when there's a camera in front of you. That's for sure.
It is.
Huh.
Wow. Yeah, that's really the most of my thoughts about it. I don't really need to comment on the music. Like, obviously it's not, because it's not anything that I can't compare it to whatever he's made before. It doesn't matter. You know what I think is that I think the sampling work that comes from it will be cool. I think that people will sample it and make some sick beats from it. That's what I think.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And you never know. Maybe there was intention for that because it
Sure.
has so much space to do something like that.
That's what I think. That's how I think it will show up in his previous work and in the hip hop realm. Like, I think that you could do something really cool with sampling. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was just like an idea of something that we consumed. But what did you actually? What's something that? It sounded like you had something in mind.
I really have been listening to a lot of Thundercat this week.
Okay.
And specifically, there was a song called 3 a.m. that I wanted to like say that I've been listening to. And one of the things that popped into my head is that like I love listening to Thundercat because I feel like he's the perfect mix between like a Mario Kart theme song and like just like a daydream in my mind. Like I could just walk through the grocery store or like walk through my life and it's playing and it just feels like a daydream when I listen to it. And it
Oh
also
man, I
feels
wonder
like,
if I've heard this. I feel like I have,
yeah.
but
I
is it
mean,
a
a lot of
popular
his
one?
no, a lot of his songs are very similar though. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
but that one song I was just like playing on repeat for a few minutes and just going about my life, doing my little things, and I'm like, this is literally like what plays in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it also reminds me of just like Mario Kart. I feel like it could be a track song. And it made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool how you like put yourself in a certain setting.
Yeah.
Cause I don't know if I think about music in that way.
Really.
I don't know if you do or if that's
Yeah.
just a one-off, but
No, I do for sure. Like there's certain things for specific parts of my day.
mm-hmm.
And then if I'm really vibing with something, I'm like, okay, why am I listening to this so much? And then I kind of, I don't know, dig a little bit deeper, and
Yeah.
that was why.
And I always wonder if the artist has intention of trying to, set that scene for somebody or if it just naturally happens.
I don't know. I feel like they're giving us what their internal monologue is like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that whole album is just like short little, I don't know, they're just weird little songs. I feel like that's what his internal brain is giving him all day long.
What was the Rick Rubin podcast that you listened to?
I listened to the Will Smith one.
Okay.
Which was really good. And then I listened to the Kenny Beats one. And then I listened to Jamie, and his last name starts with a B. And I don't know who he is, but I listened to it and it was sick. It was so good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know who that is, but
No, I didn't either.
yeah, I haven't heard all of what he's posted yet. I usually just pick out the guests that I am really interested in. I haven't even heard the Will Smith one, but I think that is on my list because he just gets to a different level in a conversation than other podcasters.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, he got much more deep than I expected, and I went in thinking it was going to be like a surface level conversation, but really with like him being the host, I don't think you can just go surface level. Like it's gonna go deep regardless. So it was really impressive, and I learned a little bit about his his upbringing and all these different. Like it was good.
Don't you find he sets like a huge canvas for whoever is on that podcast to speak, and you don't hear him say a lot of things, but he'll ask like these one-off questions and it'll make the guest go on
for an entire journey. Yeah.
And he doesn't cut them off. He lets them go. And I admire that so much. That's something that I wish I could do more of in actual conversations.
I know. And somehow he's still guiding the conversation, but he lets them just go on a complete tangent, and it never gets too long either. It's still extremely interesting. I don't know if they're I don't even think they're editing anything out. Like it just seems extremely candid.
Yeah. I think I guess you probably would have heard the clock go off. There's like a clock alarm.
Yeah, many times.
What a beautiful addition.
So good.
Just brings you back. Like this is a real conversation.
Yeah.
You like put yourself in that room that they're in when you hear that happen.
It's immersive for sure.
But it's true that people's stories they extend much further than just a short conversation.
Yeah.
You can never say your entire story within like I don't know, a minute or two. It would have to be like 30 minutes.
Exactly. And that's what I'm getting from all of them is I don't even know some of these people that I'm listening to, but I'm loving hearing their entire life story.
And you're realizing that they're real people.
Yeah.
And you can relate to them so much more when you hear these deep cuts, I guess you could call it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's sick. Oh. I'm loving it. So thank you for the recommendation.
Oh yeah, and then you started listening to the audiobook.
Yeah,
which is super cool. I just look up to this guy so much that I could talk about him forever.
I've become obsessed over the past week and a half.
Yeah, he's so calm. Like
yeah.
I think he worked with Travis Scott on Utopia. I know he's worked with so many artists in so many capacities, but it always, like, you hear Utopia, and then you think of Rick Rubin, and it kind of doesn't go together, but then it kind of does, because only someone like him could open up Travis Scott to be able to make his next amazing album.
Exactly.
Which I think, as time goes on, this happened to me with Astroworld. Over time, it just gets better. Every time you listen to it,
It
just
totally
gets better.
does. It totally does. And knowing that he's worked with so many different people, it's hard to pin what his influence actually is because he's in so many different things. So I
Yeah.
get what you mean about not being able, because I couldn't really tell either. But then when you go and listen back, I still don't know
I think
where
it's
his,
just that ability to open, like, to
it
allow
is.
that artist to be who they are
Yeah. And I
with
think,
no, what's the word? With no, unapologetically is what I'm
yes,
trying to say.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He framed it in the one interview, he framed it as like a coach. He says that he's
Mm.
just like coaching people to be them best, to be their best selves, and that's exactly what it feels like it is.
Have you seen those memes where he says that he's like not good at anything?
Yeah. Like,
If I come across another one, I feel like I should insert it into this
yeah.
podcast. But it's just, it's so, what does he say? It's something like, I don't know how to write music. I don't
Yep.
know. It's like,
That's what he's saying, and he's like, I think he said it a few times in these interviews. He's like, yeah, I don't know anything about music. I'm like, stop lying. I don't get. Like, that can't
I
be
think
true.
maybe as a product of
Yeah.
working with all these musicians, he probably has, but
Yeah.
he might even, I don't know, maybe he tries to remove himself from that just so he can be that person with the mental space to.
It's true. It's very true.
It's so, I mean, there's so many what's the word, speculations that I could make about
Yeah.
it. But at the end of the day, like, unless you met the guy, unless you hung
No.
out with him for a weekend,
I guess it's
he
just
seems like
wisdom.
the guy you'd hang out with for a weekend.
Like 100%. I feel like it's
Yeah.
also just wisdom. Like, I guess that's what he's offering.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he doesn't actually have a whole lot of knowledge on that. I get what you mean. Over time,
Mhm.
he's built that knowledge, but maybe what he's truly offering is just, I don't know, an authentic perspective and non-biased perspective too. I feel like he has no skin in the game for it. It's
Yeah,
just like
got
in it for
nothing
the
to
work.
lose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have so many notes, so many things
I
that we
know.
can talk about. I'm trying to keep things natural, but there's so many things here that are so interesting.
We might not get to everything. I think I've accepted that, but like there is so much.
I'm curious, maybe if like this idea of creation versus consumption, I almost feel like I've said a lot about it, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
hear more of what you think of, because I don't know, it's always been a part of my life to create things, and maybe that's the same for you, but maybe it's not. Tell me your journey about. I
Sure.
swear I didn't do that on purpose. The word journey is written there, but
It's fine. Well, yeah, I don't think I have as like linear of a journey as you do. I think you've just been like building skills over the years, and like you've known your passions for that long, and I don't know, you've always been able to like put your energy into it. I feel like my journey just I think I was always a creative kid. I always loved the arts, whether it be, I think visual art was where I really like put the most of my energy into as a kid. But music, I think actually no, music would be number one for sure. I was always singing, I was always dancing like 100% of the time. And I mean, my parents put me in like little art lessons and classes and pottery classes. Like I was always doing little things like that. My birthday parties were like painting parties and pottery parties and little things like that. So I don't know.
interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, my birthday's in the winter, so there's not a lot that you can do. So yeah, but yeah, so I was side note. But I think I always had, maybe I was born with specific skills. My mom is pretty creative as well. And over time, in high school, art was my favorite class. And I think that over time, you just start to realize that you can't I mean, people tell you that you can't use the skills tangibly in like the rest of your life. So then you start focusing on other things. You focus on your friends and getting a job and going to
Mm.
school and all these. So eventually they go to the wayside. I feel like where I really picked it back up was during COVID, I would say. Maybe like it would be maybe a couple times a year I would really pick up my sketchbook and draw something, or yeah, that's what I would say. And then during COVID, like had nothing else to do, I started like really practicing and really picking it back up again, and that's where I think I was able to give it enough time where I realized that it's something that I want to put time into because it makes me feel good. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of creativity, I definitely had a hard time finding ways to have an outlet, because like I was extremely academic. I was like, very linear in my schooling,
Yeah.
4 years in university, like right off the bat. So it's easy to kind of forget about all of those things that you really enjoyed. And then when people would ask you like, oh, what hobbies do you have? I would really have to think. And
Hmm.
you're like, oh, yeah, I actually really enjoy. And people would see, oh, is this what you drew? Or did you paint it? I'm like, yeah, like not, just something on the side. And you completely forget that you truly loved those things. So
Yeah.
that would be like a short story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. When you talk about friends there,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of my life was, and I don't know how sometimes I take this in a different direction in my own head, but I definitely think I spent more time like making things than tending to friendships that I think
Wow.
should have gotten the attention. And I think
Wow.
back to some really close friendships that I had and how those things have fizzled out over time. And it's almost like those friendships, I think now, would be more valuable to me than this like solitude that I've created for myself while making art. Um, and I don't know, I don't think it's that I've deleted those friends, and sometimes I connect with them, but I didn't have that core group of friends that most people had in high school. And
Interesting.
I'm noticing as an adult, most people aren't looking for new friends as an adult. like
Well, yeah. Yes and no. I don't
like
know.
they might be looking for a relationship
Yeah.
and to have kids and get married
Yeah,
and those type of things. I think that's a huge focus for adults,
for
but
sure.
um,
And then your
most
friends
people
just
aren't like,
become like
yeah,
with your couple. Like your friends
yes,
just go
exactly,
from there.
totally. Um, so I don't know. It's just interesting that idea of friendships, and I have some close friendships that I've held on to for dear life, but
Yeah.
like, but it's only because I don't know. It's just like those people are like you can't even put a price on a friendship like that. It's just like they're great people that you need to
Absolutely.
have.
Yeah, they become family like over time for sure.
Right.
But even I completely agree with what you said about friendships even being more specific, people being more pertinent in your life now. Like there's people that I've lost touch with from high school that I'm like, I think that we would mesh even more now,
Yeah.
like than we would have when we were in high school, just like pretending to be whoever we were back then. Like we have so much more in common now, but it's like the time's gone. And
And and the opposite is also true sometimes. My
yeah,
best friend, I don't think if we met today, we would not be
yep,
friends. But
exactly.
but we've gotten so used to who we are and it's comfortable and
Yeah, they
you
just
know,
know you.
right. And
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how much time has passed, we can always find a way to laugh our heads off. So,
exactly.
it's just I don't know, it's kind of a I don't know. I don't know if
Hmm.
it's that's talked about very much like
Adult friendships is a hard thing. Like it's an extremely hard thing that
it
nobody
feels
talks about.
it feels kind of fake, you know? Like,
It does.
oh man, when like somebody new asks you to go for a coffee, it's
Hmm.
like it just feels strange. It's like,
It feels like you have to perform a little bit. It feels like you're
yeah,
both.
hmm
I don't know. It can be really difficult to like break down the walls because I think that friendship goes into like your child, like it kind of brings out your inner child. And so if you're adults, it's like we're both
Yeah,
adults.
this is
Like,
too
I don't know.
serious.
Yeah, part of you has to kind of break that down and just be a little bit silly with the other person, because I think that that's where like friendship really builds. I don't know, kind of a random thought, but
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. How do you even transition into from this serious thing? You have to just be so fearless, I think. You just
you
have to
do.
just go for it and
Yeah.
say something goofy that you would say in front of your best friend that, I don't know, usually doesn't land very well.
It's exactly.
Maybe that's just me.
No, it's 100%. It's also like I know people that it's also like being introverted versus being extroverted, which you said that like a lot of really creative people are naturally more introverted because you're spending time like putting your energy into those things. So yeah, I know people that will go out to coffee and like make a friend with the person in line, and all of a sudden they're hanging. I'm like, that doesn't
That's
happen to me
incredible.
because I have two headphones in and I'm just like in my own world, like doing my own. I'm thinking about Thundercat and like Mario Kart, and that's what I'm. I'm
Right.
just like, this is my
Yeah.
inner time. Like, instead of, I don't know, being more aware in the world. I think it can be difficult if you're a more introverted person.
I feel like that somehow ties into this idea of consumption, but I don't know
Yeah,
exactly how, but it does, because maybe we find comfort in, well, it's not even maybe, it's definite that you find
yeah,
comfort in consumption. Uh, Eating too much,
yep,
drinking too much,
yeah,
consuming lots of social media. Those are the three main ones that always come to my mind, but um yeah, it expands outside of your home. Definitely. It's like you go into a coffee shop and you're consuming to some capacity, and
yeah.
it takes you away from creating friendships.
Totally, totally. And I think
And
that
that's my transition.
yeah, I
That's my
agree.
segue.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I think that a way that I've been able to hone in on creativity and minimize consumption like over the past few years is by like making a conscious effort to minimize like my social media a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
find that I'm very often, like probably quarterly, I'm like going through followers and like getting rid of people that I'm following, just people that I
Mm-hmm.
don't resonate with anymore. And
Damn, I
that
do
goes,
that a lot too.
yeah. And because my social media is not like a public page, I'm not like an influencer of any kind. I just want it to be a safe space with the people that I enjoy and like any creators that
Your
influence me,
tribe.
my tribe, and then people like that actually inspire me that are just random people or random art pages or things like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that has slowly, and it gives me more space. It literally you feel lighter when you're scrolling through, when you do spend time scrolling through, you're seeing less of things that don't resonate with you anymore. And then you naturally, okay, I'm like, okay, I've done 15 minutes, 30 minutes, like there's nothing more for me here. Let me turn this off. And naturally, like you just feel a little bit lighter instead of being exposed to like a million different things, and it turns into mind clutter.
Yeah.
And then I have no room for any more creative work because I'm just like overwhelmed and overstimulated.
Maybe I was just going to say maybe that's why even I find it kind of difficult to get to that creative state, especially a very true version of that. I don't know if that is because of the amount of consumption. I resonate with what you just said so much about how I've gotten it to a point of that 15 minutes is enough for me,
Yeah.
and then I start asking myself, like, what is the point of social media anyway? And
Yep.
I put it away, and again, as an artist, I feel this responsibility to share these
I
things that I
know.
make, but I don't want to go back to social media. And that, I guess maybe that's where it comes to this laziness, where I think I just need to break through that barrier of the work and just do it.
But it's
But
so difficult, especially if you mentioned like you're wanting a desire to have your work support you financially, which requires social media. And
yeah.
so I'm sure, like, I've heard influencers talk about it all the time where they struggle with, they don't want to be on there at all,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to get myself out there and put myself out there for other people to see. So it's
Yeah.
extremely difficult to, and I've never taken a real break. Have you ever like taken a break?
Yes, actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting you brought that up
Yeah.
because you were talking about something before that reminded me of this, but I think maybe when I was like 15,
Yeah.
sometime in high school.
I did one in
uh,
high school. Yeah. But like for a week.
you did
I did a break. Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, not even a social media thing. It was I had learned to play the guitar when I was 11 years old or something like that, and I think I kind of drained myself musically for a number of years, and then
Okay.
there was about a year where I didn't even touch my guitar. It hung on the wall and I never touched it.
Wow.
And sometimes I think of this time as like what shaped me as an artist in many different ways, but I felt like at some point through that year, I said, like, nobody else I know can play an instrument. Some people at school played instruments, but
Yeah, but not a lot. Like,
right,
it's not as common as it once was.
and it's like this skill that I have put so much time into, and I'm realizing now that I really don't want to lose that. And
Yeah.
as an adult, I would love to show my children like how to play the guitar, even in like a basic way, even if they don't want to play the guitar. Just bringing music into the house as
Totally.
like a parent or a husband, like those type of things are kind of important to me.
Very
And
much so. Yeah.
There's like this stigma around bringing your guitar to a party or something like that. You're that guy.
Did you watch the Barbie movie?
I didn't, but
Okay,
somebody
never
told me
mind.
that it was actually really good. And
Really good is like
an
really
overstatement.
No. Really good is like, I don't know. We'll talk about it
That's
after.
just not how you would describe it, I guess.
No, it's not how I would describe it. But there's a funny
Yeah.
guitar scene where it's like the guy that brings the guitar, and he's just like serenading the girl. Anyway,
Right. And I think the image of it is hilarious, and people are like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
But if you do it in a way that's like, I don't think there's
Everybody
really
loves
that
it.
much wrong. Yeah. Once the
Everybody
guitar
loves
has
it.
actually arrived, people are like, a guitar.
The times when I would be at your Christmas party, and all of a
right.
sudden, you're doing an entire concert. Everybody's enjoying it. Like, it's the highlight of the night. You're not that guy. Like, it's.
I forgot you've had a direct experience.
Multiple.
But I had recently brought my guitar. I hadn't brought my guitar anywhere for so long, and then this most recent weekend, I brought it, and everybody was asking me a million questions about it, and
It's
what
a
songs can you
conversation
play, and then they're getting excited when they hear a song they know. And anyway, to backtrack a little bit,
It builds community, 100%. It like
yeah, and I
people enjoy
just
it.
I think that might have been that year of not playing the guitar was the transition where I realized that it's perfectly okay to be a creative person. I think before that I had an image of what a creative person was, and they're like kind of annoying and full of themselves. And I kept like creating this story that wasn't even real. And then I just started doing everything I like to do again, and that's where it came from. So but it is interesting because if I didn't have that year of not playing and creating this story, then I wouldn't have kept going, right?
Exactly.
So it's kind of
That's so cool. That's a really good story.
Yeah, I also went to in college I went into like a media program, and everybody in there was obsessed with film, and maybe that also had something to do with how comfortable I was with being creative, because everybody there was a little bit kooky.
Totally. You were around fellow creatives for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Wow. No, I think it's something like I think that breaks are good in that sense where you can like re-find your love for something. And it also, maybe you were, like you said, maybe you were kind of on the same, playing the same songs, kind of stuck in a rut maybe of the same thing. And that break gave you the clarity that you needed to come back and try something completely different. Or, and especially like with creating, like as you create music, I don't know, I feel like that gives you the clarity that you need. Sometimes creatives are expected to constantly be working on something and constantly, I don't
Well,
know.
you could look at like Kanye, for example.
Yeah.
When he's not releasing music, people are always asking, "Where's the music?"
Every artist, like
Right? Yeah, that's true.
always, when is the next album dropping? On the day that the album drops, like the first interview. So what's next? Like it's always that. And so like a break is valued. I think
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, and you have to go experience life. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but we've definitely talked about this before. Just this idea of living your life
Totally.
in order to have I don't know, the currency to be able to make new things.
Maybe
Because
that's where consumption comes in. Like you do need to go out and consume eventually and go live, and then you can create. Like there is a balance of both.
yeah, but sometimes the consumption, especially on YouTube, I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but on YouTube, I almost feel like I'm doing both at the same time. I'm consuming something and I'm consuming something, and I'm also thinking about what I would like to do, and sometimes it can feel good, and sometimes it can feel like I'm doing nothing with my life. I got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Depends
But
on what you're watching.
yeah,
But
100%. I don't know if I have too much more about YouTube I felt like I was going to say something else.
that's okay.
Anyway, yeah,
That's fine.
that.
But
I feel like there was something about YouTube that just it strikes
you
me
gotta-
as this like platform where you can do both. I mean, you can't, obviously you can upload videos and like actually create, but you feel like you're part of a community when you're watching somebody.
That's what I was gonna say. Like there is kind of an interactive, which is a little bit false, but like there is a sense of interaction between them. Depending on if you like watch a creator for a long time, you're invested in their community. There is like an aspect of you feel involved in their story and their life, and then maybe it impacts you, and then maybe it inspires you to do something with it, depending on who you watch or listen to. Like there's some people that just watch, I don't know. Like there's
Yeah,
some
like
people,
mindless stuff, right?
completely mindless stuff, and then there's some things that are extremely like really challenging you and giving you ideas, which I think, yeah, I agree with you, there's totally a creation aspect there.
A lot of religious things that you'll see on YouTube will definitely challenge you a lot.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah. Like that's where I find some really, really thought provoking and creative ideas that like stay with me instead of like the more mindless content that I totally consume also. Like I really do both, but like that's where I would find it the most is in like some religious content.
Yeah. Like I love when people ask that question, do you think you're going to go to hell based on it's like it's such a like it really puts people in a place of like, what the hell, this guy really just asked me that?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's too much to consume that type of stuff because you don't want to see somebody struggle, but it is eye-opening when you see it for the first couple times. It's like
it is and some of like I don't know if you ever watch like the Jubilee, like in where there's two sides and they're debating. Those are I'm part of the conversation in my own mind. So like
right. And
like,
that's a great example.
There.
Yeah.
Like discussion. I love those. I'm addicted to them.
So like how do you know when you're crossing the line? That's where I really struggle. It's because then I get up and sometimes I'm motivated to make something and sometimes I'm like, you just don't want to move ever again.
I feel like exactly. I feel like when my screen time calculations come in at the end of the week, that's when I have a bit of self-reflection. Like
I've gotten to a point of not even looking at I don't even look at it because I already know I'm going to be ashamed.
There's never like I'm never going to feel good about it. I also work in front of a computer all day, so like that just is a gut punch to me as well. But like when does it become when have you like gone off balance?
Yeah.
I feel like when you can't do simple things without consuming, that's when maybe you've gone too far. Like sometimes I'll be eating dinner and I'm putting on a show, or like I'm just
Ooh.
like when I've realized that, oh my gosh, have I taken out my headphone all day long, or like have I had something playing all day long? How many podcasts have I listened to? Did I even really like register any of that, or was it just mindless in my mind? Sometimes I wake up and I get ready in the bathroom and it's like 7:30 a.m. and I'm like, why did I just put a headphone in already? I can't have 10 minutes to just be in silence.
You're like getting mad.
I'll check myself really quick. I'm like, enough. Like, take this
What?
out.
I can't handle.
I can't brush my teeth without like a song playing.
Without you in my fucking ear.
Like, who put this on? Sometimes that's when I realize, I'm like, geez, like,
yeah.
check
For
yourself.
me, I'm like watching a lot of Netflix before bed, and it's so true. That's where I would agree with that. It's like when you can't fall asleep without having a show on, that's when it's gone too far.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that right now. Plus, my sleep schedule is so messed up. It's so bad. Like, I won't even say it right now because of how bad it is, but
it affects everything. It is so...
And everyone. my sleep schedule affects everyone.
I don't know why that killed me. There's an intervention
nobody
happening.
Really gives a shit.
What do you think's gonna happen? You like all of your friends are gonna be in a circle. Listen, Alex, we have to talk about something. It's been affecting all of us.
It's got to be true to some extent.
That's the ego talking of like, it affects everyone around me. It does, because you show up in the world, and like I 100% show up as a different person when I've had 6 hours of sleep versus when I've had an 8 or 9. It's gonna affect everybody. I'm gonna be grumpy and like.
Are you a caffeine person?
No, I'm not.
I'm no longer a caffeine person, and for a long time I didn't drink coffee at all. And I don't know how many months it was. It was like 2 months of it just got progressively worse and worse. Actually, it started when I went to the UK.
Nice.
Because the time difference, we were trying to stay up later when we landed, and then, I don't know, you just end up having like one coffee, and then there's a second one that happens throughout the day, and then you have some other form of caffeine. And then I was back, and I was drinking like some pretty serious amounts, and that has such a brutal effect on your mentality. I don't know how it is for everyone. I'm sure for some people it's perfectly fine, but I had to tell myself like this. I had to slowly ease off of it until I had none, and then once you have none, you start getting headaches and all these things.
Irritability,
yeah. So I don't know. I just think caffeine is it's one of those things that so many people do, and they don't realize how bad it is. But
I completely agree. Yeah, it hasn't been something that I've ever. I don't enjoy the taste of it, but and every day people are like, what? Like, how do you like wake up every morning?
How do you function? Yeah.
How do you function? And I'm just like, drink water, go to bed at a decent time, like eat breakfast. People don't eat breakfast because they just have coffee. I'm like, oh man, we could go down a whole other rabbit hole about nutrition and everything, but it does become like a huge crutch for a lot of people.
I mean, if you have some kind of mindful practice that I think you do, right? Do you do something every day?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Like instead of coffee?
Well, no, or do you do a meditation or a yoga thing every day?
Every day? No.
But you know kind of what it's.
There are some like.
We all know that it allows you so much more mental space. You fall asleep faster.
Totally.
All those type of things.
Yeah, there's some short things that I go through every day, like pretty short, but yeah.
What else do we want to touch on?
I want to know.
Put a cut there.
Yeah, maybe like that might be it. I want to know what your first CD was, just like. As a fun.
Oh yeah. See, I don't know if this was my first CD, but I remember buying Bullet in a Bible by Green Day. That was the one. And I watched that DVD like every day
The
as a child.
DVD.
Oh yeah, the live show.
Oh my gosh.
It was it's still a part of me. Like
It
watching
runs
that
through
guy
your veins.
perform. It's yeah.
Wow.
And actually I think it's the way the crowd responds to him is like Freddie Mercury like.
Really?
You know, oh yeah. He has such a way of connecting with the audience, and if you watch any of Freddie Mercury's like crowd work, let's call it.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it? I think that's only for
presence,
comedians.
like stage presence.
Stage presence,
Yeah.
sure. Crowd engagement,
Sure.
something like that. Yeah, he does a lot of the like call and response things, and
Okay.
the crowd just goes
Hyping
nuts.
them up. That's amazing.
So it was either that or like a good Charlotte album. I used to love that kind of stuff.
Wow.
I don't listen to it very often these days.
But it was formative. It was formative.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's amazing.
What about you?
My first CD was Destiny's Child, Destiny Fulfilled.
Hey.
And it is still one of my favorite albums ever.
Yes.
And next to that is the Black Eyed Peas Elefunk, which was like my favorite band ever. Like ever.
That. No, don't. Is that it?
Don't start me. Yeah, I will continue it.
If I take you home.
And I had my car at university was a Honda Civic, and it had a CD player in it because it was old. And all of my old CDs came back, and like me and my friends, everyone who knows me knows that was like those are my two favorite albums ever, and they were my first CDs. And I know them all by heart. And
I love that.
They hit every single time.
How old were you when you got those albums, do you think?
Probably like 5. Which
Really?
is weird because like the topic is like they were both explicit, but I was like I had my little Walkman and I was just dancing through the house. I don't know, I think they were Christmas presents or something. But I was like singing about my man who did me wrong, and like, like all these, like, my man cheated on me. Like you should it's so good.
Oh, I'll definitely listen to it now.
Yeah.
Because I don't even like what's the
the
top hit from that song?
Soldier
that album, sorry.
Soldier and Take My Breath would be like the Destiny's Child like top hits.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're like so good. Amazing.
I bet. I mean, Beyonce she's gone a long way from all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard for me to remember exactly what my album was because we had like this huge bin
family
of
music.
CDs. You know? And we used to just like come together and throw it on the sound system. That was like the one thing I remember we had that I don't know was the most notable was this like sound system.
These giant speakers that would be.
Do you
like,
remember
in
it? Or do you have the same thing?
I had a very similar thing. Like
yeah,
we had like a huge console with like 2 giant speakers.
People don't have that anymore, which
Nobody has that
I
anymore.
think that's missing from people's homes. I have big speakers in my house, and I absolutely need them because
that's so true.
When I have people here and they experience the music like that,
yes,
they enjoy it more.
One little Bluetooth speaker is not the same as like the entire house vibrating with music. Like, yeah, it's sick. Yeah, that's so true. That is missing in a lot of homes now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's important to me that exists.
Totally. I would love to start a vinyl collection as well, but I haven't.
It's actually gotten to the point where sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
But it actually annoys me when I go to someone's house and all they have is like that little Bose thing. And
exactly.
I'm like, just because it's Bose doesn't mean you have a sound system in your house.
It's not gonna cut it.
Right. How are we gonna dance? We're not.
I can't hear it. It's not like the floor's not shaking. I mean, like, I can't feel it in my body.
I don't know why that's so funny.
It's true though. It's so true.
The floor is not shaking. Like that's a reasonable. Like
the neighbors haven't called the cops on us. Like it's not loud enough.
It's like almost as bad as you didn't offer me a drink of water when I got into your house.
Exactly.
Like the floor is not shaking. What is going on?
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I think we need to get rid of shitty little Bluetooth speakers, and people need to have real sound systems again.
And I mean, people are blasting music in their cars.
Yeah.
So I think it's
there.
Do you think they're afraid of sharing their music with people? I think it's a very personal thing
I think
sometimes.
especially with like Spotify and Apple Music, they have curated playlists now. People just look up like dinner music or like what nobody really curates anything
Ooh.
anymore.
And I love when people do that.
And
When I'm at someone's house and they do it,
yeah.
I'm like, let
If
me in
I'm
on
gonna,
this.
if I'm gonna come over, I want you to like play me what you've been what do you like to listen to? What have
Oh.
you been listening to?
And then that feeling when you're like, you start vibing to what they're listening to and you've
Yeah,
never heard it, it's like, it's such a, it's an
exactly.
experience that is like no other, really.
Exactly. And if I ask you like what do you want to listen to, like have an answer for me. I don't want like whatever you want to listen to.
No, let's get vulnerable. Tell me your
Just
favorite Morgan Wallen song.
let's cry together.
So good.
It's so true because people just pretend like they don't actually have an opinion, and I know you do, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that like
Yeah,
gets me
sometimes I push
annoyed.
them. I definitely
Yeah.
will say, like, what do you, if you were to get in the car right now, what would you put on? I feel like
Yes,
that's a good question because typically they'll have an answer to that. But
totally.
wild. I love that. I
We
hate
got
that
fired
I
up there
end
for a
every
minute.
piece of this podcast with wild or crazy, but
No,
that's
it
how I
was.
feel.
Yeah,
That's just my overall, like, that's my current state. That's the state I always live in, is crazy and wild.
agreed. We got fired up there for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was like that was a passion point.
I think we had a revelation. That's why
Yeah,
we
it was. It
we
was a
came
real
to,
time.
because that time with the sound system in our homes was my
Mhm.
favorite time in my whole life, and I always think about that. But I forgot that you can actually relive that. It's not just something that
Well,
exists in the past.
that's the thing. Or like a family barbecue, and like you're expected to have. There's something about
Oh,
you
there's so
need to
many
have the
things you're
sound
expected to
system.
have at a barbecue.
But like this, but the music particular, you need to have a proper sound system.
Oh yeah.
Those are like core memories of like barbecue, loud music, big speakers. That's
Oh
essential.
yeah, and I don't know, how did we get to this small speaker thing. I guess the idea that it can
It's
go anywhere
convenience.
is nice.
It's convenience. People don't want to have to plug their phone in and then walk away and not have their phone in their pocket the entire time.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
this, I think she's a ballet, what do you call like a dance
a ballerina.
choreographer? She's a
Oh, choreographer.
choreographer
Okay.
for like a big New York. Oh, I wish I could remember her name right now.
Mm-hmm.
But she talks about how every time she starts a new project, every time she finishes a project, she cleans everything up, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever she's working on that day, makes it like immaculate, and then has to reset everything up, because part of setting things up and getting ready to do something, I guess for her, has an impact on like what like how serious she takes her creative practice, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of the same for like setting up speakers, like when
Totally.
if you're, I mean, this applies to so many things, but I'm just thinking about speakers. You bring the speakers outside at a barbecue and everybody's like, what are we listening to?
Like the vibe is set. It's all of a sudden it's quiet.
Like you could see the work that the person's putting in to set the speakers up.
Exactly. Someone's
Like
helping.
they got a big ass cable.
Someone's helping them. They're testing. It's a process.
Yeah,
It's a process.
you get like a few, the first second of Buffalo Soldier like
You
3
get-
times until you
exactly.
actually press play.
Exactly.
I love that.
Oh my gosh. My brother has our family speakers now, and they still work.
Really? Oh, I
Yeah.
wish we still had ours. Ours
Yeah.
sounded like so good.
So
And
good.
it's just about the size, I think. Like
It's
once you get
just-
some big speakers,
I don't
game
know
over.
if quality even. Yeah, I don't know if there was such thing as like quality, but it's just the bigger the better.
I mean, they always had like a wooden housing.
Yes.
They were well built, actually. I think most of them.
Everything was well built then, so
Like you could go to Value Village now, and I've done this multiple times. I just haven't pulled the plug on like buying some old speakers, but you can find speakers like that at Value Village every
Really?
time. 100%.
I think I need that in my home one day. Because, I mean, they would probably cost me like 10 grand. Like,
Yeah,
for
you can get
real.
like modern ones that are gonna
Yeah.
be definitely 10 grand. But yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind. I want those in my house one day.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think CDs, not to drag this out too much, but CDs in my mind, you know, we come from the age of CDs.
Yeah.
Vinyl is a little bit too inconvenient for me.
I know.
I have vinyl and I like it and I have fun with it, but there's something about a CD, like just clicking to the song that you want and then moving on. You can't with a vinyl. It's like really complicated.
I feel too like I'm scared to touch it. I'm like,
I think the generation before us that is into vinyl, they consumed entire albums,
yes,
which we kind of did, I think, but
we are song
only
people
because
now.
we're song people.
We are.
Hate to say it,
Yeah,
because like every project is its own project.
it's true.
All right. Oh shit.
I guess that's it.
I think that's it.
That was good.
Yeah, I guess there's a way to wrap it up. I don't need
know.
to just stop talking and sit still.
Yeah, like I think we're done now. That's it.
Yeah. Well, so this is episode 2. I feel like I want to include whoever's listening to some capacity. Are we on the right track? Is a good question. Like, I want to hear what people have to say about what we're saying. I know I referred to our what's it called? I referred to our plant, like, I don't know. What's the word? Structure. I referred to our structure a lot because we wanted to try that out, and I always put everything out on the table. Maybe I should be a little bit more chill about it. I don't know.
No, I think like I think it's fine to know that we have a structure and we have some notes. I mean, I'm glad that we prepare. Like, that shows that we care about it. So
yeah. But it's just funny how I'm like, so how do we start talking about journeys again?
What's next on the notes? Yeah.
I got to get better at that maybe.
That's
but
fine.
Yeah, we're learning.
Yeah. Is this a good structure? Did this feel, I don't know, did you have value? Did you take value from it? Where should we go next? I don't know.
I mean, we can tease a little bit. We have a lot of thoughts surrounding the education system and mental health and mindfulness and all kinds of things. Creative block. I'm just reading them here.
Yeah, we have lots of notes.
But overall, I think we really do have a lot to talk about, and we'd like to have guests at some point.
Yeah.
That's kind of important to us. But also just breaking down a lot of these, I guess you could call them barriers of, the audience getting to know us and those type of things. So cool.
Yeah. I'm excited where we go next. I think you summed it up really well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next time.
Okay.
As always, some good chats. Love the ending on the last one. It felt really natural. I tried to replicate it. Didn't work. All right. All right. I'm going to close it out.